everyone. Today I'm stepping back to the classics a bit. Vlad has told me that this one is, well, a mainstay and a long-time classic. It is from the band Free. I assume that's the band name. And the piece is All Right Now. So, well, I'm kind of eager to see what this classic is, so I'm going to dive straight into reading and then we'll listen. Free were an English rock band formed in London in 1968. Okay, yeah, we're moving back in time a little bit, aren't we? Although renowned for their live performances and non-stop touring, their music did not sell well until their third studio album, Fire and Water, in 1970, which featured the hit All Right Now. So, I guess this was one of those instances of fake it till you make it, or I don't know. They probably weren't faking it though. They just... Third studio album, finally, they broke through. I guess that wasn't so many years. 2 years? But non-stop touring for 2 whole years before you actually start selling some albums? That would take some persistence. The song helped secure them a performance at the 1970 Isle of Wight Festival, where they played to an audience of 600,000 people. In the early 1970s, they became one of the best-selling British blues rock groups. Rolling Stone has referred to the band as British hard rock pioneers. Okay. So, from not being so great, they just went to best-selling. Not so great in their selling. Released as the album's second single, All Right Now peaked at number 2 on the UK singles chart and number 4 on the US Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. In July 1973, the song was re-released, peaking at number 15 on the UK chart. In 1991, a Bob Clearmountain remix of the song was released, reaching number 8 on the UK chart. All Right Now was a number 1 hit in over 20 countries and was recognized by American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers in 1990 for garnering over, make sure I read this number right, 1 million radio plays in the US by late 1989. In 2006, the BMI London Awards included a Millionaire Award for 3 million airplays of All Right Now in the USA. The song remains as a staple track of classic rock radio. Well, I just did one recently which was a more modern contemporary, and which one was that? It won, it has the most streaming, and now I'm thinking, what if this had been released and become popular now? I wonder how many streams we'd be counting. But 3 million airplays? That's pretty significant, at least in my mind. And I'm thinking also, a classic staple track of classic rock radio. If I had ever been in the habit of listening to classic rock radio, I'm sure I would have heard it in that case, especially since it was so popular here in the US, but obviously that's not the case. In fact, the radio in my car was always tuned to 91.1 WPLN, which is the Nashville classical radio station. Anyway, let's see what this sounds like. Well, it's catchy right from the start. That riff feels very alert about it. And they don't take long to get into the voice. I was expecting a little longer.
There she stood in the street, smiling from her head to her feet. I said, hey, what is this now, baby? Maybe she's in need of a kiss. I said, hey, what's your name, baby? Maybe we can see things the same. Now don't you wait, oh, hesitate. Let's move before they raise the parking rate.
this wasn't so long after the Beatles, is it? Because, well, I haven't gotten to the end of the Beatles 150 series, but I remember that they kind of broke up. Was it in the 70 or something like that? So this band started in 68. This is a 1970 hit. It's almost an overlap, isn't it? And the reason that's in my mind is because this is an English band. And of course, we all know where the Beatles came from. So I'm just comparing the sound a little bit in my experience here and thinking, it's certainly not the Beatles. It feels very different, at least from the Beatles I've heard to date. Granted, I have a good ways to go still. But it's interesting to see how what the Beatles were doing, how quickly other bands picked up and took it on and played with it even more. And one of the things that I find very engaging in this recording, in this song, is the interplay of the various parts of the piece rhythmically. We have the rhythm of the lyrics. We have the rhythm of the voice. And I'm going to say that this voice has a rhythm, meaning the singer is not just singing the syllables of the lyrics just line after line. He's handling them in such a way that you feel other rhythms within syllables sometimes. Not necessarily that they're written out, but you somehow feel an inner rhythmic quality within some of the syllables, a sort of subdivision. And that is stacked on top of the drums, which are not doing anything incredibly astonishing, but the beauty of it is the way the vocal rhythm layers with the percussion rhythm. And then there's riff that I commented on already. Also has a very distinctive rhythmic quality. And so we have these three layers and they're kind of playing and moving around each other. It's a bit like seeing a sort of group dance where dancers are moving across the stage, crossing paths and coming in and out of each other's space.
It's all right now. Let me tell you now. I took her home to my place, watching every move on her face. She said, look, what's your game, baby? Are you trying to put me in shame? I said, slow, don't go so fast. Don't you think that love can last? She said, love, Lord above. Now you're trying to trick me in love. All right now, baby, it's all right now.
It's interesting how the tonality changed there a bit as we're getting into this sort of chorus. The instruments added, everything came together to create a feeling of more fullness and a little more flow, which this has been a storytelling song up to this point. And now we just start to go with it and ride along with it.
She said, love, Lord above. Now you're trying to trick me in
I can just hear her exclaiming that.
all right now, baby, it's all right.
You feel it? You hear the difference?
All right now, baby, it's all right now.
And I like this little bit of interjection in the I'm going to call it bassoon, although it's probably guitar, possibly even bass. I'm not quite sure. It's in a sort of mid-range here, but it's answering back. And so the whole rhythmic play, which I talked about, has changed here. And now we feel this commentary in between a bit more.
All right now, baby, it's all right now. Yeah, it's all right now.
It's fun. You know, for being a kind of guitar solo section, well, clearly this is very much influenced by the blues traditions, but this section of the guitar solo, usually I've learned in this whole experience that very often the drum steps back. Maybe it goes to what I've learned is called halftime, where it's only beating half the amount of time, spacing it out twice as far. Or some other technique that kind of lightens the drum section and allows the guitar more space to do its solo. So this is kind of fun to hear this, where it's more like the drum is laying down a texture, a road on which the guitar can travel. And instead of lightening, it's increasing its presence, and it becomes a sort of, I don't know if I'd quite call it a duet between guitar and drums, because the drums really aren't featuring as a solo instrument quite. But it's an interesting, kind of nice change to what my ears have become accustomed to hearing.
It's all right now. Yeah, it's all right now.
And then the bass. Piano. So all of that was growing and building and adding layer after layer of intensity. I enjoyed how, at least up till now, it hasn't yet come to a full climax. It's building and building and building and building, but now suddenly it breaks open a bit. It's as if we see a little space in the clouds where the sun shines through again, and the voice again. And the rhythm again settles into something a little bit more I'm going to say micro, meaning we feel smaller elements of the rhythmic features rather than this feeling of sweeping along, moving along rapidly. to this figure.
Let me tell you all about it now. Yeah. Took her home, yeah, to my place, watching every move on her face. She said, look, what's your game? Are you trying to put me in shame? Baby, I said,
Let's try something. It's tempting me.
let me tell you all about it now. Yeah. Took her home, yeah, to my place, watching every move on her face. She said, look, what's your game? Are you trying to put me in shame? Baby, I said, slow, slow, don't go so fast. Don't you think that love can last? She said, love, love above. Now you're gonna trick me in love. All right now, baby.
Now it's going to somewhere else.
All right now, yeah. All right now, baby. It's all right now. All right now, baby. It's all right. Yeah. All right now, baby, baby, baby. It's all right. All right now, yeah. It's all right, it's all right, it's all right, yeah. All right now, baby, it's all right now. Yeah, we're so happy together. Ow! It's all right, it's all right, it's all right. Everything's all right. Yeah.
That was fun. So a classic radio song, as Vlad told me, and one which had millions and millions of airplays. And this was my first time hearing it. I was able to hear the main harmonic riff, which was being repeated over and over. A simple 1/4 chord, so it's very easy to play along until they started changing the pattern, and then it was still the same chords mainly, but not always in the same set of repetitions, and that's when I said, okay, I need to listen to what comes next. But a lot of fun, and I can sense the appeal that this had. It's sort of an easy listening. Isn't it interesting how this 1/4 chord progression is so easy on the ears, so comfortable to listen to. And I suppose that's why it's so popular in so much music. If you go to the 1/5, you have a more directed, strong, forceful. This didn't have so much 1/5. It was mainly 1/4. And so it's a little gentler, a little more smooth going, which gave just the right lift, just the right buoyancy to carry this piece through to the end. And really nice. Well, I am enjoying beginning to hear and place other bands around the Beatles era. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that. I will be doing more of that now that I have begun to get the Beatles as a sort of anchor point in my listening experience. It gives me something to hold on to. It reminds me of, well, my early days as a classical music student, where you have all the great names. Bach, Beethoven, you have Haydn, there's Mozart, then you go further, there's Schubert, Chopin, Schumann. And as with rock music, there are hundreds of them. And it's sometimes hard to remember who was where, who did what when, and how. How do you anchor it? How do you find a locating point, a starting point off of which you can gradually build the structure of understanding around the music. And, well, for me, Bach became my natural anchoring point, not only because he's fairly early in the sequence of recognized composers, but also because his dates were so easy for me to remember. And as a student, I just needed something to place and anchor Bach's dates. He was born in 1685. He died in 1750. Those are pretty easy numbers to stick in your mind. And you start to then pin other composers and other events and works around it and build off of it. I'm kind of doing the same thing with Beatles here, where, as I said, I'm not through with the Beatles 150 series yet, but I am moving my way through and enjoying getting familiar with their work and really getting a handle on who they were, what they did, how their music grew and developed, and of course, their place in the history of rock music, which was fairly early, not the first, fairly early, kind of like Bach was not the first, but fairly early and fairly influential. Kind of the same thing with Beatles. And so now, as I'm beginning to get that as a sort of anchor, I am going to be pinning other bands and pieces around it and starting to increase my awareness and knowledge. And I'm looking forward to that. So this was one of those, and a nice one. Free, all right now. It's all right now. I'll see you soon.